Okay, Algebra 2, moving on to 3.6, we are just going to do problems 1 through 5 on the homework today. So we're going to call this 3.6A. Problems 1 through 4, we are going to find the possible zeros of a polynomial. So before we start, we need to take this original polynomial and put it in standard form. That means we're going from the highest exponent to the next highest, to the next highest, to the one without an exponent. So our standard form SF, y equals 15 x cubed minus 36x squared plus 38x minus 14. Our leading coefficient is going to be important here. That's why we put it in standard form. That's 15. And then our constant would be negative 14. That's just the number without a variable out here. So looking at the leading coefficient of 15, our factors, so what multiplies to 15, plus and minus 1, positive and negative 3, plus or minus 5, and plus or minus 15. Then we need to find the same thing. You're good. Hey, you're good. What's up? Just homework? Yeah. Sure. I'm just making a video right now. And then we're going to do the same thing with the constant at the end here. So negative 14. So what multiplies to negative 14? Like a plus or minus 1 times a plus or minus 14, plus or minus 2 times a plus or minus 7. So we have all of these possible factors. And we're going to be able to take these and make all of our zeros. So there's going to be a lot of zeros or roots, possible roots for this polynomial. And our formula is going to be the factors of the leading coefficient divided by the factors of the constant. So we're going to take all of these factors and divide them by these factors. So on the bottom of our fraction, we're just going to start with 1. And we're going to do this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. And then we're just going to put the plus or minus in front. 3 divided by 1 is 3. 5 divided by 1 is 5. 15 divided by 1 is 15. You just put plus or minus in front because we have all these plus or minuses over here. So now we're going to move on to the next one on the bottom. 1 divided by 2, plus or minus 1/2. 3 divided by 2, plus or minus 3 over 2. 5 divided by 2, plus or minus 5 over 2. 15 divided by 2, plus or minus 15 halves. Going to do the same thing, move on to the next denominator. 1 over 7, 3 over 7, 5 over 7, 15 over 7. That's this row right here. And then 1 over 14, 3 over 14, 5 over 14, 15 over 14. And these are all just plus or minuses. So a lot of answers, but it's not too bad to figure out. It's just kind of slow. So these are all of our possible zeros. And now we're going to find out how to find the actual zeros. So here's our polynomial. We have x to the 4th minus 8x cubed plus 31x squared plus 90x plus 50. So it's already in standard form. Our leading coefficient is 1. Our constant is 50. So the constant goes on top. So what are all of our factors of 50? 1 times 50, 2 times 25, 5 times 10. They could all be positive or negative. And then what's our leading coefficient? It's just 1, so the factors would be plus or minus 1. So let's go through and find our possible zeros first. 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 divided by 1, 2. 5 divided by 1, 5. 10 divided by 1, 10. 25 divided by 1, 25. 50 divided by 1, 50. And we have all these plus or minuses, so these are all 2 different options. Now we're going to test them. So we're going to test these using synthetic division. We're testing with synthetic division. So we're just going to pick our first one. We have plus or minus 1 for our possible zeros. Let's try positive 1 first. So we're going to take this positive 1 from our possible zeros list, and that's going to go in our box for synthetic division. And then all these numbers are coming from the coefficients of this problem right here. So 1, negative 8, 31, 90, and 50. We're just filling these in right here. And just a reminder or a refresher on synthetic, drop the 1 down and then multiply. So 1 times 1 is 1. Combine these, so negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7, and multiply. So negative 7, 31 minus 7 is 24, multiply, 24. 90 plus 24, 114, multiply, 1 times 14 is 14, add them together, it's 164. So this would be our remainder for the synthetic division. Since our remainder is not 0, 1 is not a 0. So this isn't our answer, not going to work. Let's try the other one. We had plus or minus 1, remember? So let's try negative 1 in here. So drop the 1 down. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. That's negative 9. That's 9 when we multiply. That's 40. That'd be negative 40 up here. That's 50. Negative 50 when we multiply. That's 0. So since this remainder is a 0, negative 1 is a 0. And then we're going to factor out x minus c. So x and then the opposite of this number. So we're going to factor out an x plus 1 because this c was a negative 1. And we're going to factor out right here x plus 1. And then what goes after it is our answers from the synthetic division. So x cubed minus 9x squared plus 40x plus 50. And then we got to do this all over again. So if negative 1 worked the first time, let's just try negative 1 again with our new coefficients. So our new coefficients are going to be 1, negative 9, 40, and 50. They're the same from this row. I filled them out right here. We're trying negative 1 as our C. Drop the 1 down, multiply. Combine them, multiply. Combine them, multiply. Ends up again as a 0. So we found another 0. Let's factor it out again. So x minus c, or x minus this number. X minus negative 1 is going to be another x plus 1. So this is from the first time of synthetic. This is from the second time. And these were our leftovers from the last synthetic. In order to find our last two zeros, we now have a quadratic equation. So we can use the quadratic formula. And we know that we're going to have 4 zeros. I think I forgot to mention this because our exponent, our highest exponent was 4. So we know that we're going to have 2 more zeros after we've already found the first 2. Last slide of notes. Here was the leftovers, x squared minus 10x plus 50. Our a is 1, our b is negative 10, our c is 50. We're just going to plug in to the quadratic formula. So opposite of b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. We're just simplifying, so 10 plus or minus negative 10 squared is 100. Negative 4 times 1 times 50 is negative 200. 2 times 1 is 2. We're just simplifying down. The square root of negative 100. The square root of negative 1 is I, remember. And then the square root of 100 is 10. Going to do the heart thing, so 10 divided by 2 is 5. 10i divided by 2 is 5i. We have the plus or minus, so we have 2 different answers. And our zeros, remember we have 4 zeros because our exponent was 4. Negative 1 with a multiplicity of 2, and then 5 plus or minus 5i. So we are just doing problems 1 through 5 on the 3.6 homework today. We'll do 6 through 10 tomorrow.